How's it going, Dopamon fans? We're halfway through the NHL offseason, but with training camps opening up, things are starting to heat up as teams try to clear cap space and fill holes in their roster before it's too late. And the big story right now is Chicago Blackhawks winger Patrick Kane, rumored to be on the trading block.
Been no secret, Chicago's trying to go through, sort of rebuild here. It's looked like they were trying to retool quickly, much like the New York Rangers did a few years ago, to appease their veterans on the team. Most notably in the media, Jonathan Toews very unhappy with the rebuild. But then the floor really fell out on them, and now they're forced to go through the full rebuild process. They traded Alex DeBrincat to the Ottawa Senators for draft picks, and now they're in full-blown rebuild mode, which basically leaves their one remaining big superstar, Patrick Kane, at 33 years old and entering the final year of his contract, that big contract he signed, $10.5 million cap hit. Patrick Kane still statistically can bring it every single night. 78 games last year, had 92 points on a really, really bad Chicago Blackhawks team. It was one of their only bright spots all last year. It was minus 19, but that's because it was on Chicago. And has a career over a point per game. At 1,100 games, has 1,180 points. So he brings it every year, and I think you said over the last 6 years he has only one season under a point per game.
No, I didn't say that. I said over the past 10 years he's only had one season that is under a point per game. Yeah, he seems to absolutely defy the aging process and still shows that he's capable of producing at an elite level for many years to come. So it's very likely that the team that trades for him would sign him to an extension. Why not Patrick Kane, right? I don't think he'll fetch on a long-term 7-8 year deal. I don't know if he'll hit another 10.5 million, but on a shorter 5-year deal that brings him to 38 years old, I absolutely think he produces over a point per game. You can give him over $10 million. It's Patrick Kane. He is the best American hockey player of his generation, maybe ever. We discussed this earlier. It was maybe ever, and he's going to be offered good money wherever he goes. People are going to want him. It's just too hard not to offer for a guy like Patrick Kane.
So this keeps his price point pretty high. Usually at his age, high cap hits tend to lose value, but Kane is still producing, and he isn't really a rental. I think wherever he goes, he's likely signing there long-term because he has so much control about where he goes. I doubt he'll go to a team just to then leave that team and for free agency somewhere else. Since he has so much control, he's picking his destination probably for the long term here. And, recent comparables, there aren't any for this kind of player. This kind of player doesn't get traded very often. And we're going to go through a few options here, what we think would be the best for a couple teams. And we'll go through those.
And to start us off, Toronto Maple Leafs, of course. We have to go big.
Yep. Toronto's in on everybody. They're going for it, like any other contending team.
And we actually have two different versions. We both basically agreed. Such a similar, nearly identical proposal. We put both on the screen, but they're kind of the same. So you let us know what you think. But this is what we see as, the kind of the staples of our proposal.
So for the Leafs trade here, we're kind of building this around a player like William Nylander. He's the guy that's probably going to have to go the other way in Toronto, especially because of the cap hit. Even at 33% retained, it's going to be tight. 50% makes it easier, but William Nylander making almost $7 million almost has to be part of this conversation. We both had Rasmus Sandin, the rights to him. That kind of solves the problem with signing him as an RFA for Toronto. First, second, some kind of prospect, some sort of package of picks. And then the only difference we had between us was Alex had Alex Kerfoot going, and I had Nick Robertson, solely to bump up the trade value from Toronto's perspective in order for Chicago to retain more salary. Because I don't think that Toronto can get this done at only 25% retained. I think you have to go 50% retained if they're going to add a guy like Patrick Kane and still not take away too much from the lineup. I think taking away Nylander and Kerfoot from your top six could be pretty detrimental, even if you're adding a guy like Kane. So I went for full prospect mode. That's 1 year of Patrick Kane essentially being making over $10 million, which would give the Leafs 4 players over $10 million, essentially, even though Kane's cap hit would be retained a little bit, which would still be quite funny.
And something that you mentioned earlier about American players.
Yes, I think it's just the narrative is super cool with Austin Matthews being there, the kind of passing of the torch. I think it'd be a really cool scenario with Patrick Kane coming to the team, signing an extension there, and then in a few years, really passing that torch of best American-born player in the NHL to Austin Matthews eventually when Patrick Kane either retires or moves on from the Leafs. Hopefully after winning a couple more Stanley Cups. But I think that'd just be a cool narrative to add on top
And
of this.
serious question now. Line projection. Matthews and Kane, and then Tavares and Marner? Is that what you think?
Yeah, I think you have to put Matthews and Kane together at least to see what happens. They're both, American superstars. They're both, some of the best players of their generation. And Marner has played with Tavares before, and that line was incredible when that happened. And I just don't think, for some reason, Kane and Tavares just don't. I don't know, something there that just doesn't fit for me. So Matthews, Kane. Tavares, Marner. Yeah. The rest you can do what you want. I don't care who's on the left wing. I really don't. Michael Bunting, I guess. I don't know. Nick Robertson if he's not traded.
Yeah, I don't know.
Doesn't matter.
Matthews and
Kane. You have those 2 first lines. That's insane. So that's the dream, I think, for Leafs fans right now. It'd be quite insane.
And so that brings us to our second proposal. For this, we have the big hot topic has been to the Edmonton Oilers, which they've been kind of public about. According to Gene Principe, this was plan 1 for them was to go after Patrick Kane, so it's no secret. Now, much like Toronto, the Oilers are in no position to be adding a huge contract. They currently sit $6 million over the cap, but with $6.3 million expected to go on the IR, they'll just squeeze under, so they'll have to move a bit of money out, which I think will make this deal a little bit harder. Guys like Connor McDavid, Draisaitl, maybe even Darnell Nurse, I think are untouchable. Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, Zach Hyman, Evander Kane, their ages 29 through 31. I don't know if they're like the type of young talent that Chicago wants right now or that Edmonton wants to move those. I think that they're key pieces of their forward core, so I don't think it leaves a lot of options for Edmonton to clear up some space. So I think we both agree with this proposal here. Which is the star is Tyson Barrie, which is really the big cap piece available for trade.
Yeah, unlike Toronto, who has a couple players that they could send Chicago's way, a guy like William Nylander is a big part of that, who's still young and could be a part of Chicago's future. Edmonton doesn't really have anybody like that, so they're going to be very, very prospect and pick heavy for me. We included a guy like Jesse Puljujarvi, who I don't think is in the same category as William Nylander. So you have to include another guy for cap reasons, Tyson Barrie, and then a combination of Philip Broberg, first-round pick, Dylan Holloway, Xavier Bogo, multiple picks. Like, it has to be a huge prospect haul to get a guy like Kane out of Chicago, especially doing it.
And especially at 50% retained, of course, to keep the Oilers under the cap.
Yes. Another big option, and something I kind of like, is the idea of Patrick Kane going to Colorado. Colorado, defending Stanley Cup champions, obviously, I think is in a very, very prime position to just go all in for the back-to-back. The West, to me, is wide open for them to return to at least to the Stanley Cup final. And I'll give credit here to Blackhawk Up, the fan site here. their suggestion for Patrick Kane 50% retained is Bowen Byram, Alex Newhook, and a third. Now, I don't really care about the third, but Bowen Byram and Alex Newhook, those are like top tier level prospects that aren't really prospects anymore. They're NHL players. They're very good, very young NHL players. And I think that would be very, very enticing for Chicago. And I think it'd be very enticing to Patrick Kane. So don't sleep on the Colorado Avalanche to be the front runners here. Everyone's talking about Edmonton, Toronto. Colorado has to be considered as a huge front runner because Patrick Kane wants to win and Patrick Kane controls his own fate. So him going to a team like Colorado, which is a team that has to go for it because Nathan McKinnon's contract is coming up and they're going to have, he's going to be probably over a $10 million player, that guy. So him going to that team with Makar and McKinnon and Rantanen, and like that would instant cup favorites if they aren't already without Kane. I think just makes that team incredibly scary.
Agreed. I like this one. Go all in. No harm in back to back. It can pay off, and the chance to win. That's huge. It's proven success in Colorado. They've been the proven cup winners, and for multiple years they've been like the favorites. So it's hard to if you're gonna put who could win the next one. If you're Patrick Kane and you want to win now, he is 33. He's getting old. By Patrick Kane standards, it's really more like 25. But by real standards, he's getting old. So he wants to win again, and Colorado is the big option. But also, like you said, he controls his own destiny, and trade speculation is just trade speculation. Chicago does not have to make a move yet, and Kane, doesn't have to request that move. Just yesterday on the Daily Faceoff Rundown podcast, Frank Cervalli had this to say.
He does have the full no move, no trade, so he controls what happens. And my intelligence at the time, and it remains this, that he's not interested in a trade before the season starts. That if he is going somewhere, that he would like to go at the deadline if he decides, or sometime around then. So probably, sometime into 2023.
Links in the description below if you want to hear the whole thing. I added, I think, 2 links. You can see it on Spotify or something else. I don't know. So as much as all of these trade offers might be enticing, it's really easy to hype up these big trade news during the offseason right now. We've been blessed with a fairly hot offseason, big blockbuster trades like the Tkachuk-Huberdeau trade, the Brinkett to Ottawa. I'm a huge Ottawa fan. That makes me so happy, which makes it just that much more exciting to hear about another potential trade with Patrick Kane. But it's very possible that he's traded at the deadline instead, and that's just it.
I do think, as much as I know that Patrick Kane has his fate in his own hands, I think it's best for both parties, especially Chicago, to trade him before the season. I know, based on that clip, he doesn't want to be traded. He wants to be traded more at the deadline. That essentially just shrinks what Chicago can get back for them. That turns for Toronto example, a Nylander Sandin prospect trade to just a Sandin prospect trade. They miss out on big players. And I think for Patrick Kane's sake, this Chicago team isn't going anywhere. Patty, get out. Just get out, man. Wherever you want to go, get out of there before the season starts, because it's not helping Chicago, and it's not to be completely honest, it's not helping you either. So get the hell out of there.
I can see the attraction to waiting for the trade deadline to say, maybe, a team he is kind of interested in, if they're successful, he'll go for it. If they're not, then you'll be more open to somewhere else. But there's the value for Chicago, for the team, for the player, for the team that gets him. They're the only ones that aren't gonna pay more, but it definitely is better to get it done now. And it's dragging it on. It only makes the offers shrink over time. And like you said, the Sandin offer, part of that deal is that Sandin, he's an RFA. So if they, Toronto's doing this partially to like clear some cap room for him, which they can't make this same deal. Like it wouldn't be even possible, let alone the offer be on the table at the trade deadline, because he'll be signed. Toronto will make a different move. They'll have a different guy. They'll have a different plan. So it'll be completely different teams. Yeah.
Yep. It's a long time from now to try to predict what Toronto or Chicago, for that matter, is going to be in March. So we'll, and the other thing too is Chicago would probably want to get rid of him as soon as possible for the tank.
Connor Bedard.
to get extra lottery balls in the Connor Bedard sweepstakes. Patrick Kane makes them a better team. So getting rid of him for futures and picks, I think just benefits Chicago more than anything.
I completely agree, and I believe that is all that we have to say on the topic. Yeah, thank you all so much for watching. Don't forget to leave your own trade proposals in the comment section down below, as well your thoughts on both of ours, what we have down here. What do you think is going to happen to Patrick Kane? What's he going to sign to? All the things, just leave, drop it down below. We're Dopamon, two best friends. We talk hockey news, analysis, mock drafts, scouting reports. We got coverage of, international competitions from the off-season. We're going to have some off-season predictions, probably just for the Canadian teams, but maybe for some American teams too, before we get into the NHL season. So hit like and subscribe so you can stick around for more dope hockey content. Peace.